give us also the understanding of each other's thoughts and ideas. Let us work together for our community. Dear Lord, we also ask you for moisture. We're in dire need. It's dry. Please bring us some moisture in our valley. Dear Lord, we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Ms. Velasquez, can you please take roll?
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
Honored to be here.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
Present.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
Present.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
Present.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
Present.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
Councilor Justin Salazar Torres mentioned he was going to have to work tonight, so he's excused.
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
Present.
Mayor Javier E. Sanchez.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. As we go on to the approval of the agenda, I'd like to make one quick change. If we could please remove the August 11th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes from the agenda. They're not quite finished. We did, of course, meet our appropriate deadlines for having a draft of the minutes 10 days after that meeting. We did receive a few complications with regard to the transcription of those, so we are about 90% done. With your permission, I'd like to remove that from today's consent agenda. And if there are any
Motion to approve as presented with the change, sir.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the table from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez to approve the agenda, removing Roman numeral 5, letter A, and a second from Councilor Manny Martinez. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
In favor of the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Also in favor.
Motion carries.
Excellent. We'll now move on to the consent agenda under Roman numeral 5, letter B, Espanola Planning Commission case number 2020-05, appeal hearing written decision. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez and a second from, was that Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Perfect. Can we take a quick roll call vote on that one?
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
Favor of the motion.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
For the motion.
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez.
In favor of the motion.
Motion carries.
Excellent. We'll now move on to public comments, please. We have no public comments today, so that will bring us to the next item on the agenda, which is committee chair updates and councilor comments. Do we have anyone? If you can please remove screen share, I can maybe see a little bit better. Okay, does anybody have anything? You can raise your hand. I think I see Councilor Manny Martinez beginning. Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, we do have a couple of items that I believe are on the agenda from community services. So I'll yield to when they come up on the agenda, sir. Other than that, I just want to wish all the kids and welcome back to school in this new day and age of cyber school, I guess you'd call it. I wish them all the best of luck. for this year, or at least for this semester, and God willing, they'll be able to get back in the classroom soon, sir.
Excellent. Well heard and well said. Thank you. Do we have any other council comments?
Mayor, on behalf of Chairperson Justin Salazar Torres and the Public Safety, we too took care of some items during the committee, and both items are on the agenda for this evening for action items. So we'll discuss those more at that time. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Do we have anything? Nope. All right. Oh, yes. Counselor Manny Martinez again.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, I just wanted to relay some messages to our city PD. They just want to say thank you. They've seen a lot of more patrols in the Corlett Road, Santo Niño Mobile Home Park area, and in other areas in the city, in McCurdy Road area. And they just want to thank the city PD for being diligent and doing the rounds that they've been making. It's been making a difference for their area of our community, sir. So I just want to thank the PD for that, sir.
Thank you very much, Counselor. All right, very good. We'll now move on to matters from the mayor. We have before us the appointment of our fire chief, Mr. Ron Padilla. I'd like to just say a few words before we go on, and that is that we placed him as interim fire chief as we were beginning to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. Although we were certainly, and I, of course, was very convinced of the capabilities and the wherewithal of Mr. Padilla, his true expertise, his humility, and his great ability shined even through that pandemic to an area that led us to truly recognize what a great fire chief he will make. And in fact, the great fire chief that he has been. It gives me great honor to recommend the appointment of Mr. Ron Padilla as Espanola Fire Chief. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Second,
Second.
All right, very good. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez and a second, I believe, from Councillor Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Yes.
Very good. Do we have any discussion?
Under discussion here.
Yes, Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you. I'm just pleased to see Ron Padilla be appointed officially as the fire chief for the city of Espanola. I believe that his heart is all about what's right for the city, and I think that's a good choice. So I'm very, very, very pleased with that, Mayor. Thank you.
Very
Mayor.
good. Thank you, Councillor. Was that Councillor John Ramon Vigil that I heard?
Yes, yes.
Yes, go ahead. You have the floor.
I just want to commend Ron. Ron is he's come up from the bottom of this department. To my understanding, he's one of the most senior members of the department. So I'm really happy when we hire within and we have people that have worked their way up and know and live and breathe the Espanola Fire Department. And I know that Ron will be a great leader for that department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That having been said, Councillor Manny Martinez, go right ahead.
thank you, Mayor. I just want to congratulate Ron. I know he brings a lot of ethics and morals and values to that department and to his role. Again, he has worked very hard. It's work well paid off, and I think it's most beneficial to us here in the city to have him in that role. I know he's a highly ethical man, and I think he's going to do fantastic, sir. So I just want to congratulate him.
Thank you, councilors.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councillor Denise Benavides.
Thank you, Mayor. I definitely want to add to the cheering for Chief Padilla. I think it's been a long time coming. I think he's well respected by his peers and those in the community. And Ron, I know that you're already doing a great job. So just keep the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor of the motion. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
In favor of the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
Yes, for the motion.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor, congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
Honored to support the motion, and congratulations, Chief. You're gonna do a
Thank you,
great
sir.
job.
Thank you.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
In favor of the motion.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Congratulations, Mr. Padilla. And do we have the Honorable Judge, Mr. Steven Salazar, on the line?
Good evening, Mayor,
Excellent.
members
Thank
of
you so
the
much for
governing
joining
body.
us.
No problem. Chief and Mayor, I wouldn't mind trying to get this done in person. If I don't have an oath tonight, and we could do this in person tomorrow, maybe with his lieutenants. Maybe this could be a photo op for the chief and his lieutenants to come by the court, and we can try and get this done tomorrow, just because I don't have an oath with me.
Very good. We have City Clerk, Madam City Clerk, Ms. Velasquez.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Judge. I did send that this morning, but I can put it on screen so that it's visible to everybody if you'd like. If not, I'm happy to accommodate for tomorrow.
I'll yield to the chief, however he wants to try and get this done. If we can, whatever the chief would like.
I would like see if we can get it done tonight. I do have my wife here
Oh,
to
fantastic.
hold the Bible for me.
Yes,
And so I would like to do that if possible.
I'm honored. Let's get it done.
Great.
Looks great.
Okay, we're good to go there.
All right, if I can have you place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ron Padilla,
I, Ron Padilla. I, Ron Padilla.
okay.
We are having a bit of a quick technical difficulty. My apologies, Your Honor. We'll have that up in just 1 second.
Having been appointed to the office of Fire Chief
Having been appointed to the office of Fire Chief
in the city of Espanola,
in the city of Espanola,
state of New Mexico,
state of New Mexico,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of New Mexico
and the state of New Mexico
and the ordinances of the city of Espanola,
and the ordinance of the city of Espanola.
and I will, to the maximum of my capacity,
I will, to the maximum of my capacity,
defend, support, and pledge my loyalty
defend, support, and pledge my loyalty
to the citizens of Espanola
to the citizens of Espanola
and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and faithfully, impartially discharge the duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Chief Padilla.
Thank you. Thank you. If I could possibly have a couple of minutes, I'd like to thank all you counselors. It's been a great career here in the city of Espanola. I couldn't ask for anything more. My dream has been fulfilled to work in the city and with the city, and to be a firefighter here and with the people that I work with. Thank you guys and the city of Espanola for giving me that opportunity to take care of them. Well, one last thing I'd like to say is I thank my wife for putting up with me for the 22 and a half years as a firefighter with the city of Espanola, and also as the fire chief, because I tend to come and go. But this goes out to my father of 25 years as an APD officer. He retired as a chief of police. And now I can tell my mom, hi mom, that you have two chiefs within the family. And that's been an honor for me. Thank you, mom, and all my siblings, all my family for having faith in me, to know that I would do good things within my life. And I, more of all, thank the Lord Jesus Christ for being in my heart and my soul and giving me the opportunity to help people within our community and anywhere that I'm at. And I'm honored to be the fire chief of the city of Espanola. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. And once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll now go on to matters from the city manager. What I'd like to recognize at this point, or the way I'd like this to proceed, is we did have some questions and issues last week. I will first defer to city manager, Mr. Javier Martinez, to describe the situation, the timeline, and then give a potential couple different options with some commentary before we move on to what we can or can't do. And I'd like to leave that at the discretion of the council. So first I will yield to city manager, Mr. Javier Martinez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. Before you on the agenda, we have the selection of the ethics board. This was presented a couple of weeks ago. To do so, there was a few questions that I hope that we can address for tonight and moving forward. I just want to set a little bit of a timeline as to how this came forward. So there was an ethics complaint that was filed on April 21st on a councilman within the governing body. At that point, we as the city and the administrative staff realized that we did not have individuals to select from to create the ethics board. So working with the city attorney, Ms. Nancy Long and Mr. Jonas Nahum, we proceeded to follow with accordance to the ordinance of chapter 40, sending out a letter to all members of the governing body, to include the mayor, asking to submit 2 qualified individuals that lived within the boundaries of the city of Espanola to willingly to serve for approximately a 2-year term in this case. So I sent out the letter the first week of May with this request to all members of the governing body. So in accordance with the ordinance states, is that we require the minimum of 5 individuals to create an ethics board. It took a little bit of a time to gather the 5 individuals. Once we received the 5, we proceeded to forward the complaint to the mayor. In turn, he went ahead and appointed an investigative committee compiled of 3 counselors and our city attorney. At that time, the complaint was forwarded to the investigative committee. They reviewed it. They determined that the complaint held some merit to be forwarded to the ethics board. In accordance to the ordinance, the ethics board shall be named or selected at the next public meeting, which was scheduled 2 weeks ago. With that said, we are at this point currently where we still need to appoint an ethics board. I yield to any questions.
Before we go on to questions from any potential counselors, Mr. Nahum, do you have anything to add or correct or change to the timeline that the city manager just proposed?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. No, I believe that that was an accurate description of the timeline and the issues that we faced when we first received the complaint. The only thing I would want to add, just for the council's clarification, is that the city attorney was involved with the investigative committee, but it was not, the office of the city attorney was not a voting member of the investigative committee. So it was only a majority of those 3 counselors that determined to forward the complaint to the Board of Ethics. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. So I'll just throw in a few thoughts of mine, and first and foremost, recognize that the process wasn't very clean. One of the things that we certainly want to do as a legislative and executive body is take very seriously any questions, whether they be ethical, administrative, procedural, or otherwise. And we want to make sure that anybody that does or is questioned, gets that done as quickly and rapidly as possible in order for the body to continue its very important work. We certainly don't want to be undermined by things that are stalling that process, and it wasn't ever anybody's intention, of course, to have that happen. So I need to make it clear that during the last meeting, I know that there were questions raised about the validity of the ethics board, which I think was cleared up in the fact that it is requested by ordinance, but there was also a question about the timing, and the delays in getting to the point that we're at were only because of the fact that we didn't have that ethics board prepared properly. And of course, that falls simply on my shoulders. So that having been said, we could ask ourselves, where do we go from here? And I do have very serious concerns regarding how it is feasible to create an ethics board when the ethics complaint has already been lodged. And I find that to be an issue because then by nature, the people that are being requested to be on the ethics board, just by the will of the way that things are, either may or may not have knowledge of what is happening. And so the people being asked may in fact be only to be against that particular complaint, or be there only to defend that one particular complaint. So in a sense, I find that the creation of that ethics board is somewhat unethical, I suppose, if we're doing it for a very specific purpose and a very specific reason. So that having been said, we seem to be at somewhat of a crossroads that I'd like to offer options and or suggestions. One of the things that we could do, and of course this is uncharted territory because it's not in our ordinance, but we do feel like with a majority of somewhat of an acceptance, we can move forward. Now, please also keep in mind that this is not a, it doesn't seem like this is a voting situation. So if we wish to postpone it, we can of course table the issue until we get further clarity. But what I would suggest is either of a couple options, and one of them would be to potentially give this ethics complaint to another municipality or organization that would be better equipped to hear that completely independently, so that we don't get any of what I was earlier describing as potential people who are either completely for or completely against that specific situation. And I think that independence is going to be the key to any kind of resolution, either positive or negative. And that's where I feel the most strong. So that, or move forward with where we're at and continue with the process. So there, I'm sure, are better ideas through collaboration. So I wanted to at least bring the council up to speed with regard to the feelings that I had and where we may or may not be able to solve this. So I wanted to then bring that up for discussion. We have Counselor John Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. The Ethics Board is a critical part of our team. Again, people are skeptic of folks in elected offices, and the Ethics Board is a possible tool to bring light to our governing body and to any governing body, and it's should be done with transparency and no bias in it. And I think the way the ordinance was written, if it was established at the beginning, as you stated, we would have it in place and the people would have already been chosen. And now we've already know what the potential case could be. And the way the process of us bringing people in, appointing, as you stated, they know what they're already going to be judging or ruling on. And I have a question for the attorney. With one of the recommendations that the mayor has proposed regarding another entity, another city or another organization, is that, can we do that without rewriting our ordinance? Do we have that option?
Thank you, Councilor Ritchie. Members of the governing body, as the mayor said earlier, we are in uncharted territory here. So there is no provision in your ordinance that provides for a sort of overriding of the process by the governing body in terms of doing something else with an ethics complaint, which would include forwarding it to a different municipality. None of those things are authorized by the ordinance. So I suppose the short answer to your question, Counselor, is no, that's not contained or authorized within the ordinance. And so, it would be uncharted territory for the council to decide to do that with the ethics complaint.
So there would be legal challenges that could be brought forth if we moved forward with that option, if we agreed on it.
Yes, I think so, because this is an ordinance that has been duly passed and is in your books as law. It does not contain an exception. So I could see a lawsuit saying that there wasn't due process here and that the city acted ultra vires, it acted without authority.
Then my question would be, then we would move forward if we have enough nominees for the ethics board, or if not, I recommend tabling it until we have enough candidates presented. That's a question to the city manager.
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor John Ritchie. So as of right now, we do have enough candidates to make the selection tonight.
Then I guess recommend going forward in with the process of nominating our ethics board.
Before we do that, we have a question from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. This is really for the attorney. I too, Mayor, have sat back and thought about this situation with a lot of frustration, and mainly because of some of the things that you mentioned. The ordinance does state that the person judging the situation should live in the city of Espanola. So that to me that sort of takes away that second option that you talked about. But I want to ask the question concerning, at the last meeting, City Manager Martinez mentioned that the person that was having an issue with being listened to for their ethics, was their two choices would be eliminated automatically. And I don't see that on the ordinance at all. So I'm curious about that. Could we have the attorney touch base on that, please?
Yes, thank you, Councilor Martinez. Because your code and your code of ethics discusses conflicts of interest and impartiality, it talks about the appearance of ethics. It would violate those very general principles to have someone serving on a board of ethics that was appointed by the subject of the ethics complaint. I think that's plain. It's very obvious. It's the type of bias that is very potential, if not absolute. And because your ethics code talks about impartiality and things like that in general terms,
Right.
we
Right. The thing that I have a concern about is us doing it at this juncture, creating the ethics board for a specific situation and for a specific counselor. You know that every single one of us reached out to potential board members. Every one of us did it. I'm sure of it. That we had the conversation with the person and said, would you be willing to serve? And the first obvious question that a potential person would ask logically would be, what's this about? And why is this happening now? So there's a situation right there that sort of we're sort of setting ourselves up here for something. This ordinance to me is not really clear. I think it creates a liability for the community. I believe that we should hold each other up to a higher level of expectation and honesty and ethically. But at the same time, I'm very concerned about how this is happening at the juncture that it's happening and how fair it is in general, being that we didn't do this when we should have. So I'm just concerned about the liabilities for us. Could you touch base on that a little bit, or do you see anything at all yourself?
I absolutely understand your concerns, and our opinion of the way to address those concerns is to have them raised before the Board of Ethics that's appointed. And certainly the complaint, the subject of the complaint is free to make those arguments to the Board of Ethics that the whole process was unfair because of the timing and that the city didn't have the pool ready. There's just nothing in the code that permits the city council to make that determination. We certainly can't make it as city attorneys. There's nothing in there that says that we can make that determination. The investigative committee was only charged with determining whether the facts that were stated in the complaint warranted hearing. So they didn't really have the authority to just dismiss a complaint because the process wasn't right. But the Board of Ethics is going to have a set of procedures, and we can put in that set of procedures that there's like an initial, sort of a review of the complaint or an opportunity for the subject of the complaint to make objections, to raise issues with the process. But ultimately, the code places that decision with the Board of Ethics. So I hope that.
Right. So, yeah, you're absolutely on the same page as I am as far as that goes, but I'm just trying to get some clarity from the legal side, and I hope you're just being understanding and patient because I think this is very serious. So, when you say that the person could bring that up to the Board of Ethics, I just feel like, gosh, so we have this tabled right now. It requires a motion to get untabled. Am I correct?
Yes.
Because it was tabled at the last meeting.
Yes, I think that's correct. I will say that,
for purpose of discussion, go ahead, Mayor.
Oh, Councilor, I just wanted to add that I think it's still important that the council provides those two names, regardless of what they decide tonight about this specific Board of Ethics, because the opportunity for this to happen again, if there were an ethics complaint filed today, for instance, we'd have the same situation as to a new complaint. So I think it's important that nonetheless, the council does provide the city manager with two names. It just sounds like the majority of you have done.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I wish that in retrospect, I wish we had taken care of business in the very beginning and done this when we did the appointments, and all this would be so much easier and so much more clear for all of us, especially those that are the target of an allegation. It's horrible. I mean, this kind of stuff can start to build on us, and it can get ugly very fast. And I would just caution people to understand that we need to be careful how we handle this. I really do believe that. So I'm going to make a motion, Mayor, to go ahead and untable it from the table because I'm the maker of the motion to table. So I'm gonna make that motion to untable it so that we can continue discussion, sir.
We have a motion on the floor to take off of the table the selection of an ethics board. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There is a second from Councillor Manny Martinez. I believe we still need a roll call vote for that, please.
Oh, I can't.
Councillor Dorothy Didi Valdez.
I'm sorry, can you explain to me a little more that we're taking it off the table? Mayor, can you explain to me, please, what that actually means?
Yes,
I'm a
ma'am,
little
absolutely.
confused.
That is a great question. So during the last meeting, a motion was made to table the item, which meant that we were going to re-discuss that today. It was set for a specific date, and that is today, August 25th, 2020. And so, in fact, I don't even know if using Robert's Rules of Order, we actually need to untable it if we tabled it to a specific date. But for the sake of making it clear, what that means is we can now move forward with it if we take it off of the table and go ahead and use that for discussion purposes in order to proceed.
Okay, so let me just clarify if I'm getting it right.
Sure.
So if we untable it, then the selection of the ethics committee will be made tonight and we will continue?
That is conceivably correct. And I say conceivably if that's the direction that the council wishes to move forward with. Of course, it can be tabled again with another motion.
Okay, so I'm voting for to untable it or to keep it on table. Is that correct?
To take it off the table.
Okay. I'm for the motion then.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Councillor John Ramon Vigil.
For the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
For the motion.
Councillor Denise D. Benavides.
For the motion.
Councillor Manuel J. Martinez.
For the motion.
Councillor John L. Ritchie.
For the motion.
Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
In favor of the motion.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries.
Thank you very much. And so I wanted to make one comment before I go to Councillor Manny Martinez. Excuse me. And that comment was to also give the recognition that the ethics board and also the council don't have any authority to preside over this as though there were any criminal activity or has no legal basis upon which to make a legal judgment. So just to be clear, this is simply based on a code of ethics, and that would be the single discussion that would be had. So, there are no legal ramifications through this as far as I know. Is that correct, Mr. Nahum?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I wanted to point that out to the council as well. I think it's important the council recognize that and I think this is what you were getting at, Mayor, is that the penalty that if the ethics board were to find to impose a penalty, the only penalty that they can impose, that they can recommend to the city council is censure or public reprimand. It's only those two.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nahum. Councillor Manny Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's important that we do move forward with the ethic board, especially for what the attorney did state, because a complaint could come in today, tomorrow, or next week or before the next meeting, we would find ourselves in the same predicament. Should that happen, I think that if we are to hold ourselves to a higher standard, or if we are to even hold ourselves accountable for our actions, then we need to have this ethics board. That was the whole purpose of it in the first place. Now, granted, yes, this should have been appointed some time ago. That didn't happen, but now is the time to do it. And I think ethically, we have to put this board together, or allow the city manager to put this board together, sir. Because otherwise, I think we would be unethical to say we're not going to do it for this particular time and then wait again for another situation to come up or whatever it might be. So I do think that we do need to let this move forward and put the ethic board together, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other councillor comments or questions? We have Councillor Denise Benavides.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to kind of add to what Councilor Manny Martinez mentioned, the fact that we're starting off already being unfair to the councillor that the complaint is against, in my opinion, because we didn't follow our own ordinance, and technically we're still not following it. So, you know, again, ethically, that's a question, right? For all of us, if you think about it and if you read the ordinance. So, I mean, whether it goes forward tonight or not, I think that going forward, we really need to, number one, take a look at the ordinance and make some clarifications in there in case this does ever happen again. And secondly, I think that we just need to do a better job, basically, is what we need to do, in my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. For a follow-up, Councillor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I think part of that also falls on us as councillors, because this board was asked by email back in May. We're already in August and we're discussing this. This should have been taken care of a long time ago. If we as councillors would have answered those emails and responded with the names that were requested back in May. Now, granted, that was late as compared to, of course, what happened in March. You know, when we or even, you know, when you did the reorganization, but we were requested in May, and yet we're still talking about this in August. So I just think that we as councillors have to uphold ourselves too, to answer these emails when our city manager or the mayor or whoever may request such, whether it's names for an ethic board or anything else, in order so we can start moving things forward and not holding things back. And then here we are 3 months later saying, why wasn't this taken care of sooner? So it does fall on us to make sure that this takes place, sir. So, I mean, I just wanted to state that, because this isn't something that the city manager just said 2 weeks ago, I need names. This was back in May, and that falls on us as councillors to answer those emails or ask those questions to the city manager back in May instead of now in August, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other councillor comments or questions? Seeing none, if I am correct, this is an item under the matters from the city manager. So this is now just left up to you, and there is no council vote to move anything forward. Is that correct, Mr. Nahum?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so then I defer to Mr. City Manager, Javier Martinez.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. So with that said, and no more further questions, I will go ahead and proceed on.
I have one more question, Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
I'm sorry, City Manager Martinez. I'm curious about what the list looks like. And if there was any issue with anybody nominating the same person, or is that list public? Can that list be made public, Mr. Martinez?
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. It doesn't state anything in ordinance that it requires to be for public view. I will refer to our city attorney, Mr. Nahum, in regards to that. But no, the individuals that have been mentioned to me have not been publicly put to be viewed.
Thank you, City Manager, Councilor Martinez, for the question. The city manager is correct. The ordinance doesn't state whether the list of individuals is a public a list. However, if I just think about the Inspection of Public Records Act, as I sit here right now, some more research may be needed, but I don't see any exemption for this record from being a public record that can be produced. I'm not going to opine right now on whether it is a public record subject to IPRA, but it could be.
So we're not going to have a list this evening as counselors. We're not going to know who are possible candidates.
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, I do have the list. I received a total of 14 names from different counselors and the mayor. And from those 14, I withdrew the 2 that were submitted by the counselor in question with this ethics complaint. So I was gonna draw from a total of 12 individuals to compile the 5 individuals that would be nominated tonight for the ethics board.
And how is that process going to happen? You're going to draw them out publicly? Are we going to get to see the names before they go in the situation, or how is this going to happen?
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, per the ordinance code chapter 40, it just says that the city manager will draw a total of 5 names and read them out publicly. It doesn't state as how it's done. It just says, I can pretty much put them in a box or in a hat, as long as it's, and I draw them out and call them out publicly to compile the 5 individuals. That's pretty much what the ordinance states.
So nobody else has an issue with this being done like this, as far as not seeing the names go into a hat and him just drawing the names. Are you talking about publicly or not publicly? Can you clarify that a little bit, Mr. Martinez?
I guess I'd like a little bit more clarification from your question, Counselor. And also I'll refer to Mr. Nahum, who's asking to yield the table.
Okay.
Thank you, City Manager. I think I just referred, Counselor, the ordinance requires that the names be drawn randomly at a public meeting. That's what the ordinance says.
So are we doing that tonight, sir?
Yes, that's what the selection of the, so let me back up a second. So there's the 18 individuals that are supposed to form the pool. And then from those 18 individuals, the code says that the city manager at a public meeting shall randomly draw names until the 5 people are selected to serve on the ethics board.
Okay, so that makes me feel a little bit better about it being drawn publicly, but are we gonna all get to see the names that go in the hat or in the box?
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, I have already prepared that. So I've already placed the 12 names into the hat. They've been drawn on a piece of paper and folded and placed into a hat.
Councilor Peggy Sue, I have a couple councilors who would like to ask a question. May I defer to them and then come back to you if you have anything further? Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, is that okay? Are we still on? Okay, we seem to have lost a little bit of audio, so maybe that's an opportune time. I'll go to Councilor Denise Benavides.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have an issue with this. I had an issue at the last meeting, and I think that for the public out there, this I brought up too, that my hope was that, yes, we would be able to hear the names of the people that were selected to be thrown into the hat so that we all know that they're being thrown into the hat, and then the selection would take place thereafter. So that was what I thought was going to happen tonight, so that we would know that, those selections by each of the counselors that did submit names truly did make it onto the list and were in the hat. Because I think that's a fair, it's a fair way to do it. And we're transparent to the public.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor John Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. It's like some ordinances in the past, they were, not sure if they were going to be utilized and thought out all the details. So unfortunately, our hands are tied in how the ordinance is written. Is there any more clarification on the process? When you said you're drawing out the names and you've got 12, is it the first 5 or is each one brought up and we vote on what's the true process here?
Well, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor John Ritchie. So as of right now, I have a total of 14 names submitted to me by councilors and the mayor. I took all those 14 names and I withdrew the 2 names submitted by the counselor that the complaint is against. So that left me with 12 names of all the names that were submitted to me, all 12. I wrote them down on a piece of paper. I cut them into their selected papers, and I folded them and I put them in a hat. So now, I don't know how much transparency I can have on this. I know that you as the governing body entrusted me to do the right thing, both ethically and morally. That's what I can do. If there's anything else that I need to prove to you that I'm doing this as best I can and as fairly as I can, I'm open to suggestions. I also have recently appointed Chief Padilla in the room with me. He can hold the hat. He can verify how many names are in the hat. He can shake the names, and I can reach in there and randomly select 5 names for your pleasure. That's where I'm at. Thank you.
Follow-up question. That was the question. The process is first 5 names come out. That's our board. That's just want to clarify. So that's what was written in the ordinance. So if that's what's written in the ordinance, unfortunately, we got to live with it.
We'll go to Councilor Denise Benavides, and then we'll continue to wait for Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, who lost audio, and then before that, we'll also go to Councilor Didi Valdez. So Councilor Benavides,
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Mayor. Just a couple of comments and a question actually for the attorney. The ordinance states that each of the counselors should submit 2 names. If that hasn't happened, can we truly go forward? Would we be violating the ordinance? That's question number 1. And then I do want to say to City Manager Martinez that, this is in no way personal at all. And it's not an attack on you, sir, whatsoever, or in any integrity that you may have. It's simply a business decision. And I think for transparency purposes, I think that that's the reason why, we want to make sure that the public does understand that from the names that were selected, those names truly were in the hat, and now the selection process will go forward. If the attorney states that based on the ordinance, even though some counselors did not submit names, we can still go forward.
Thank you, Councilor Benavides, for that question. I understand the question to be, can we move forward even though there aren't 18 names in the pool? And we debated this issue and determined that as long as there were enough names in the drawing to constitute a 5-member board of ethics, then those counselors that did not submit names, we can't wait indefinitely. It's like this should have been done before, and the fact that it wasn't done is a way for a counselor to jettison the whole process if they withhold names. So the fact that we have enough names to form a board of ethics, which is the goal here, is to form a board of ethics. To hear this complaint, we feel like we have sufficient names to do that, so we can move forward.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not violating the actual ordinance in any way based on how it reads. Thank you for that.
Okay, I apologize. We're going to take a quick break. Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez is off and on. So if we could just simply recess for a short period of time, I hope everybody is okay with that. We certainly want to make sure that everybody's comments, questions are heard. After that, we will go to Councilor Didi Valdez, then Councilor Manny Martinez, and then Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim.
I have comment too, Mayor.
And of course, we will then go to Councillor John Ramon Vigil after that recess. So I will just make it official. And what is the proper term? Is she ready? Is she on?
I'm back. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Councillor Peggy Sue, are you good to go on the technology side?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We're going to go first to Councillor Didi Valdez for new questions, and then we'll come back to you if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Didi Valdez.
Hi, yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that this is an ethical meeting selection. And I know that city manager will act ethically by putting all the names in the hat. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Benavides was saying. It's not that we don't trust you or anything like that. We just want to make sure everything is fair, but I do have faith that he will act ethically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll now go to Councillor Manny Martinez and then Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to state that, again, we've had the request since May. I don't know why any counselor would be withholding their names from being placed into this pool. To do that would look like they're going to construe the process and to hold it up for whatever particular reason. But I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have already had all these names in place. I do think that, like the attorney did state, it's holding up the process, and we can't wait indefinitely for any of us to submit the names that were requested. Again, this is about ethics, and if we're going to move ethically forward, then especially with an ethics board, then I think we need to start. And now is a place to start right now. Sir, I trust that the city manager will do his best. As he said, Chief Ron is with him. And if I think we all stated how we believe that Ron is an ethically man, and we trust him, and we trust him with our lives, obviously, because he's our fire chief. So I think we can trust him with this ethic board, him and the city manager. I just think we need to move forward with this, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to echo what Councillor Manny Martinez had mentioned as far as councillors being able to submit the names, just like we expect the city clerk, like we expect the city manager, police chief, fire chief to respond to us when they request something of us. I think it's very important as well that we respond to them what they're requesting, and especially within a reasonable amount of time, because if the cases were turned opposite when we're expecting something of them and they don't respond, obviously, the appearance is that they're not doing their job. So I feel that, we all need to do our job with any request of the city manager, of the city clerk, or, any department head, as long as it's feasible, that, and comes with the territory of the governing body. Also, in regards to our city manager, obviously we all voted for him as our city manager. We have Ron Padilla, who we just ratified as our fire chief. So as far as the integrity, I fully trust him. I think the way the city manager has gone about this, he's done the best he can with the tools that he has. And to be able to put the names in the hat and pick those names, I think it's a very simple process. I think it's being more complicated than what it really should be. I think it's much more simple than it really should be. It's just becoming more complicated. And back again, the integrity team, pick the 5 names and let's move forward. Thank you, sir.
Can I have a quick follow-up, sir?
Could you hold out for just 2 seconds? Allow me to go to Councillor John Ramon Vigil, and then I'll come right back to you, unless it had a direct relation to that.
Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. Councillor John Ramon Vigil.
Thank you. Deferring to the city attorney, if city council meeting minutes are subject to OMA and, minutes become a matter of public record, well, then how come names wouldn't become a matter of public record just for purposes of transcription of this meeting? Wouldn't that be a violation of OMA, Mr. Nahum?
Thank you, Councillor Ramon Vigil. Councillor, the minutes reflect what was actually stated in a meeting. And so the pool of names is not going to be stated in the meeting, just the 5 names that the city manager pulls out of the hat will be stated in the meeting. So I agree with you. Those 5 names will be most likely included in the minutes, and they should be, because this way there's a solid record of who was appointed to the Board of Ethics. As to those, the names that are left over, those names are never stated in the minutes. So in terms of the application of the Open Meetings Act, I don't see that applying to cause the production of those 18 names or the names that remain in the hat. I think that's more of an IPRA, more of an Inspection of Public Records Act case where it may be a public record that may be requested by a member of the public. But I don't see that as being information that would be contained in the minutes.
Follow up, Mayor.
Yes, sir, certainly.
So wouldn't that be construed as city business that's being conducted in a public meeting before the governing body, whether it's minutes or such? It's public business, it's taxpayer dollars, because this entity is going to be funded by taxpayer funds. Shouldn't that be public record and could be considered public record?
Sure, and I'm not saying that the 18 names are not public record. I think that you have to go by the letter of the law of the Public Records Act, of the Inspection of Public Records Act, which defines what a public record is and also contains exceptions. I just am not sure, as I sit here right now, without a thorough analysis as to whether any of the exceptions to disclosure would apply to this pool of names. So I can't say right now whether it definitely would be disclosable under the Public Records Act. But if a request came in, we would analyze it, and if it's a public record subject to disclosure, disclose the record.
Did that answer your questions, Councillor?
Yes, he's on the record.
Thank you, sir. So we'll now quickly go to Councillor Manny Martinez, and then we'll go back to Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez. Thank you very much for your patience. Councillor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, sir. I think this just also shows, as far as our like the ethics, we really need to work on a lot of these issues and bring them into light and update them. There's so many loopholes or holes in them that we really need to look at these and get them up to date, sir. But on a note that Councillor Vigil stated, he said public, I believe he said public monies. I thought this board was a volunteer basis board, that there was no money to be paid to the board.
Thank you, Councillor Martinez. Yes, that's correct. Your ordinance provides that the members of the Board of Ethics shall serve without compensation.
Mr. Nahum, clarification on that question.
Yes, Councillor John Ramon Vigil, go ahead.
Yes, but it says supplies and materials shall be provided by the city of Espanola. So that is taxpayer funded.
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Vigil. It provides that the city has to provide the Board of Ethics with the resources it needs, space, perhaps, and other materials.
My apologies, Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez, go ahead.
Oh my God, that's again. You better hurry up and get me.
Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
I'm sketchy in and out, Mayor, so I hope that you can hear me. I'm curious if these hearings of this body are going to be public, since there's nothing on the ordinance and the ordinance is so weak.
Mr. Nahum, do you have an answer to that, or do you need a recess to look at that?
Mayor, I think that Councillor Martinez is correct. The ordinance does not specifically state whether these hearings are to be open public hearings. And I'd have to research the issue under the Open Meetings Act, because this is sort of I see it as a delegation of adjudicatory authority by the council to a adjudicatory body. And there is a section of the Open Meetings Act that covers whether such bodies should have open public meetings. So I'm sorry to do this, but I don't have an answer to that question tonight.
If we were to make the selection today, what time frame would it be before that group meets? And would we have an answer by then?
Yes, the time frame. If you select a board of ethics tonight, the Board of Ethics must hold a hearing within 60 days after receiving the complaint. So I absolutely would have an answer to that. And also, I might mention that the Board of Ethics has to establish procedures, rules, and regulations governing its internal organization. There are no such rules and procedures right now. The city does not have any. So I've been in the process of drafting those rules and procedures. And in that context, I would of course include in there whether the hearings would be public or not.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Manny
So-
Martinez. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Peggy Sue. You had a few questions.
I'll
and a
yield to
follow-up.
Councillor Martinez. Mayor, go ahead, and then come back to me.
Okay. Councillor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Martinez. My question is, it states that they will be, need to be met during now that's COVID and most meetings are being held via Zoom or conference of some type and not actually meeting in person. How would that change this? Would this change this in any way? Also, with materials that would be needed, I would think that all materials would be sent via email, or would this need to be a hard copy, considering that most meetings are now being held by Zoom? I'm sure that there's many of the people that were willing to be their names placed in this would be more likely to meet via Zoom or via the internet than to meet in person.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nahum, before you answer that, I have to do this. I have to inject a little bit of humor. Councillor Manny Martinez, not all of us are quarantining in our cars, so some of us can meet in public spaces. And I'm just going to say that I think that there is an allowance for city business, and if it's crucial to meet in person. But I apologize. I just had to.
Ha ha ha.
Mr. Nahum, if you would kindly answer the councillor's question.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Martinez. Sure. COVID is certainly high in our consideration of how to conduct these hearings. As guidance changes from the New Mexico court system, I imagine we'll be taking some guidance from them. But I think that the Board of Ethics only being a 5-member board, I think that currently would be okay under the governor's mass gathering executive orders. I think that you're allowed to meet with 5 or more, and I don't think these people may be considered city employees, so I don't think that exception would apply to them. But I do think that there will be some COVID-related compromises that we may have to do to get a hearing underway in these circumstances.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Yes, Mayor. In an effort to be transparent, I'm going to state the choices that I made because I feel that it's important that the public understand what's happening and who did what. And I'm going to state my 2. First of all, I chose Mr. Frankie Naranjo, and secondly, I chose Mr. Jose Sandoval.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other, Councillor Denise Benavides?
Just a quick follow-up, Mayor. I guess, I'm not opposed to moving forward tonight, but I don't see what the problem is with reading out the names that are in the hat. I mean, if we just read out those names quickly, we can move forward. So if no one's opposed to that, then I think we just do that and go forward. I mean, for transparency purposes and for the community to understand that that's what we're trying to do. I mean, again, it's not personal. I think just read the names that are in the hat and then go forward with the selection. So, I mean, I don't see what the problem is with that. So let's go forward.
I will just interject my own opinion here. Am I on? Yes, I apologize. So I wanted to just interject my opinion. I think that all of the information that is provided will be iterable anyhow, with everything that should be available. Of course, I'm not the expert on that, but I don't see why that wouldn't be available. However, Mr. Nahum, if you feel like you need to wait on that response, that's up to you as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd prefer to take a look at the IFRA request and before I just sort of make an advisory opinion here that it's absolutely a public record. I think that you're probably correct. It is a public record, but I just don't want to state that and then have it turned back against the office of the city attorney when there's some exception that maybe applies.
Thank you. Councilor John Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. I throw a fly in the ointment here. So if we would have done this way back and we had 18 names in the hat and 5 were chosen, they could have been 2 of the counselors already.
No, I think the way to look at it is all 18 names would have represented the ethics board, and everybody at that time would have known what those names were. And then we would have chosen 5 names out of those, 18, removing any from that particular.
So in the ordinance, it states that we change it up. So if there's 2 members on the board, we would have chosen a board of 5. Is that we chose, or we just have 18 sitting in a pot for at this moment?
That's right. We had 18 sitting in a pot.
Okay, so that's what it would have been. We just would have had 18 names
Right.
sitting. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
Right, and that
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
So I'm curious why the secrecy? This is for the attorney. Why not just read the names publicly? I don't understand that.
I'm just
And I'm
concerned
not, wait, let me finish, please. I'm not just saying this as a matter of public information. I'm saying this as a matter of a counselor's information. We're entitled to have this information. Why would we not? It doesn't make any sense not to do that, right? I just disagree with you on that. I think it's something that we should be transparent about, and we should let our governing body know whose name is in that hat.
Thank you, Counselor. I don't think I've said that I never said an opinion about whether the name should be read. I believe that the city manager responded to your comment on that. I don't have an opinion on whether the names could be read or not. I think that you could run into conflict with some of the counselors with the names they chose. Maybe those people don't want their names read. I don't know. But the ordinance doesn't say that the names be read. That's all I'm saying. I'm just telling you what your ordinance says. I'm not.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but just for a matter of clarification, also please understand that it's a little frustrating because you have numerous counselors asking for the information and we're not getting it. I don't understand that. Like, is there a reason why we're not getting that?
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, I guess I'm confused with the question. What information are you not having privilege to see?
I would like, I want to know what names are in the hat. Or what names are the 5 going to be chosen from?
So I guess to understand the question correctly, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, so you would like for me to read all 12 names that are in the hat?
I think that that's transparent to the public. I think it's transparent to each other. And I think that it's the fairest thing to do. Now, I'm only one counselor, sir. Let's pose the question to other counselors and see how they feel about that.
I'll go ahead and start. I think this is all public information. I think we should just read the names. I think that it would sort of be the fairest way to look at it. We'll go to any other counselors that have any questions or comments. Councilor Denise Benavides.
I agree. I think, we just read the names for transparency purposes and we go forward and make our selections.
Councilor John Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think we just got caught up thinking that it had to be secret. If it's there's nothing that's saying you can't or can, then let's just announce the names and put them in the hat and get this over with. We're dragging this way too long for a simple process here. So
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Didi Valdez.
Yes, I agree with the previous counselors. I also have perhaps a solution. Just as Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez announced the people she recommended, I'm going to announce the two people I recommended, and perhaps it could go around the table and each counselor could announce who they selected. My two members that I have thrown into the hat would be Joanne Salazar and Francis Madrid. Thank you.
And so that we don't have to, necessarily, I don't think, in my opinion, go through each counselor and the two that they've chosen. Mr. Martinez, would it be appropriate to ask you if you could just read those names, maybe drop them into the hat so that Chief Padilla can see them go in, and then we can do the drawing very quickly thereafter? I think that would help to speed things along.
Of course, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, if that's what the governing body wishes that I proceed with, I would gladly entertain to do that right now. Is that the general consensus?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Proceed.
Yes.
Yes, let's move forward.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to read off the 12 names that are going to be going into the hat. Like I said, there was a total of 14 names submitted. I withdrew 2 because those 2 were submitted by the counselor that the complaint is against. So I will proceed with the first name going into the hat is Mr. Dick Bedoin. Name number 2, J.R. Trujillo. Name number 3, Frank Naranjo. Name number 4, Joanne Salazar. Number 5, Ken Suazo. Jose Archuleta. Chris Roybal. Ricky Sevna. Julian Barbie. Carla Martinez. Jose Sandoval. And last name, Francis Madrid. Those are the 12 names in this hat. Shall I proceed to draw the 5 selected for the ethics board?
Yes, please, by all means.
No, wait, Mayor. I have a question for the attorney. I'm sorry.
Very good. Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez, what is your question?
I have a question concerning Miss Julianne Barbie being Counselor Manny Martinez's sister.
Counselor, Mr. Nahum, I believe the question, if you didn't hear, was that there is a relative member on the board. Is that in the ordinance?
No, the ordinance doesn't prohibit appointing relatives. And again, this goes to why we remove the names of the subject of the complaint. So if Mr. Martinez or Councilor Martinez was the subject of the complaint, it wouldn't be an issue that his sister was his name because she would be removed from the hat.
Okay, we have a question from Councilor and Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to add, Julianne Barbie being a sister of Manny Martinez or not, Councilor Manny Martinez, I don't think that has anything to do with anything. Julianne Barbie is somebody of very good character in the city of Espanola, and I'm absolutely fine with Julianne Barbie being there. Even if I chose my own mother, it shouldn't matter. You know, they're citizens. As long as they're citizens of the city of good character, it should not matter. Thank you.
I just want to
Councilor
state,
Peggy
Mayor,
Sue-
I'm not
Hold on one
questioning-
second, Counselor. I'll go to Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm not questioning Julie Barbie's honesty or anything like that. I believe her to be honest and ethical. That's not what I'm questioning. I question whether or not it's ethical to have a sibling of a counselor serve. That's what I was questioning. The attorney answered it. I'm fine with his answer. I just brought it up as a matter of principle. I don't want anybody to think I attacked anybody here.
Councilor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I can tell you if anybody needs for me to speak on my sister's behalf, or if you'd like my sister to speak on her own behalf, I can tell you she's very ethic. That's how we were raised. That's how she is, and she would do what is right, even if she's the only person standing. We question now about relatives being on a board when there are relatives right now within the city council. So I think we need to look at that also if that's the case. So I just want to state for the record, my sister's a very ethical person. And trust me, there are many times that she and I don't see eye to eye on many things, and we talk it out. We respect each other, and we respect each other if we don't see eye to eye on many things. So yes, she would be very ethical on this board. And the reason I chose her also was because I know that anyone I chose, if there should be any type of complaint against me, that those people would not be chosen, would be taken out completely out of this round. So I just wanted to state that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And as I stated from the very beginning, we're already in uncharted territory. There are so many questions to be asked, and certainly criticism and analysis to be placed on that ordinance, which is why I had kind of also figured, well, we're already in hot water. What's the difference now? And I had given a couple different alternatives and opportunities, knowing that going this direction was still going to provide these difficulties. So are we prepared to move forward with the choosing of the 5 names?
Yes, please.
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, I'm going to go ahead and select the 5 names that will create the ethics board. First name selected, Mr. Chris Roybal. And Madam City Clerk, if you can record these names for the record, please. Second name to be drawn, Ms. Frances Madrid. Name number 3, Mr. Frank Naranjo. Name number 4, Ricky Serna. And the final name to be drawn for the hat to create the ethics board is Miss Carla Martinez.
Very good. Thank you very much. We have the names for the record. The ethics board has now been sanctioned, I guess, and created. City manager, you'll now be directed to reach out to those members and see if we can take care of this as swiftly and quickly as possible. We've already, I think, taken a tremendous amount of time and energy on this, and we'll now move forward. So you have the floor. City manager, fiscal year, next on the agenda is Roman numeral number 9, letter E, fiscal year 2021, final approved budget and approval letter.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. We received the official letter from the Department of Finance and Administration saying that they have reviewed and approved and accepted our FY 2021 budget as presented that you as a governing body passed last month. Just really quick, the letter here, it pretty much states that it needs to go officially on record for the minutes, recorded that the letter has been presented to the governing body. I stand to for any questions.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
I have an issue with the verbiage on the agenda. It doesn't ask for approval. It's
No, it
saying
does not,
final
Mayor.
approved. This is just simply a letter that we received, right?
Okay.
There's no approval necessary.
Motion to not approve because it's not necessary, Mayor.
So that motion is withdrawn. Thank you very much. City manager, thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. We'll now move on as you still have the floor to Roman numeral 9, letter F, 2022-2026 City of Espanola Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan for discussion. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. So as all of you are aware that we must, as you as the governing body must approve an infrastructure capital improvement plan for the city on a yearly basis. So before you, we have presented for discussion purposes, we need to submit this by, I believe, September 20th to DFA. So with that, if it's open under your, for the hyperlink, you can look at what the ICIP currently looks like with some amendments and some additions that we've compiled from all department heads on what they would see or what to want to see go forward on this plan. They are also pretty much in order of priorities, if you will. With that, I open for any questions and discussion on the presented infrastructure capital improvement plan to the governing body.
We'll first go to Ms. Diane Hawkes before we open that up to the counselors. So if you would like to make any comments or let us know anything in particular, that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. I engaged the feedback from all departments regarding new projects, regarding existing projects. We had a total of 8 projects that are being added, and we had 2 that were removed because they were completed. So for the most part, there was very little shift in the priority ranking. The top 5 remained as such because they're already in process. They're either already in design or we're actively looking for construction dollars.
All right, thank you.
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, I also would like to give a chance, please, to add and chime in regards to Ms. Hawkes' comments as well. So Ms. Hawkes did reach out to some subject matter experts with, dealing with the legislature and got a consensus of how it's looking because of COVID-19, how the budget is going. And what was stated to us was quote unquote bleak, but that should not hold us in any way, shape or form to proceed forward as planned because things may change on a month by month basis. So we want to be prepared with our infrastructure plan ready to go in case things change for the better. Hopefully that's the understanding. Because a lot of the requests that are submitted to legislation must be on the ICIP in order to move forward when we go to request funds when the legislature happens at the beginning of the calendar year.
Very good. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments from counselors? I think that we did a good job of recognizing a lot of these same items. Unfortunately, we weren't as successful last year, and I think what we'll need to do is do a really good job of talking to our delegates and our legislators to make sure that these items are prioritized for them. And this is just a discussion, and we have another item here in 2 weeks. Is that correct? Where we can go through this in further detail?
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, so we would like to take this opportunity to discuss in detail tonight. So when we bring it presented to our next full council, it would be under an action item to approval so we can submit to DFA in a timely manner. I believe our deadline, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Hawkes, the timeline is the middle of September, correct? So we need to have this approved, full approval by the governing body by next council meeting, which will be September 8th. So today would be the ideal time to go through any details that the governing body might have and concerns, so we can address them now and then bring them forth at the next meeting.
Very good. And at that next meeting, again, of course, we can always make changes and make a motion for that final proposed ICIP list with whatever changes that that we recommend. So this is an excellent way to begin.
That's correct, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Well, seeing no questions or response from councilors, we'll go ahead and move on then on the agenda. We'll go to Roman numeral number 10. We have business with visitors. We have an excellent presentation by ReadyNet regarding homework hotspots provided by Information Technology Disaster Resource Center. As all of us know, we've had difficulties trying to log on, or at least hopefully improvements now. And we know that we're going to be homeschooling for a lot longer. And I will now turn this over to Mr. Gerald Baca.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Governing Board, thank you very much for this opportunity to present. I have with us as well the Chairman of our board, Raymond Ortiz. We did have another election in June, and he was elected as chairman. So he is with us as well, but he has offered the opportunity for me to speak to this. ITDRC is an information technology disaster resource center. They have the ability to go out when there are natural disasters, such as hurricanes, but this one is the pandemic, and they help with networking issues. They came into the northern New Mexico area and they've started putting up Wi-Fi hotspots. If you can see the map that is on the screen, there are some points that are listed out. Some are in red, some are in blue. The red ones have been completed. The blue ones are to be completed. They are back here this week, and they will be completing these here by the end of the month. These are at local community centers, schools, fire stations, things of the sort that give the public the opportunity to drive up to the parking lot and use the hotspot, and they will not violate any kind of gathering situation because they will be located in their cars for short periods of time. These are free for the community to use. This list is available to the community, to the mayor. It is available at the state. It has been listed on the state Department of IT website. And these are what we are putting up as part of a ReadyNet initiative as well. These hotspots will not affect any bandwidth that'll be from the community. ReadyNet has dedicated itself to provide internet where it can for the community, and these hotspots are one of those items that we have chosen to focus on. These will have a completely separate network. That way they are not on the city network or any of the JPA's joint power agreements that are also constitute ReadyNet's membership. So they will be separate items. These are what we had brought tonight as some of the requests that we had of what ReadyNet had been doing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concede for questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from councilors? Before we go to councilors, I'd like to ask a few on my own. One of them would be whether or not we're working with local providers in addition to or to be compatible with ReadyNet to boost either speeds or capacity or network numbers to individuals in addition to homework hotspots.
Very good question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What ReadyNet did at the beginning of the pandemic is we automatically doubled our network speed to the internet providers. For example, internet provider Black Mesa Wireless, they are one of our partner wireless internet providers. We doubled their speed for free in the anticipation that working from home would increase, as well as teleeducation and telehealth. We had a meeting with our internet providers today, in fact, to see how this has helped them and if they were seeing any peak traffic or any incidents where this doubling of speed was an issue. One of our providers did bring a very good graph to point that it used to be the internet peaks were during the evening when everyone got home from 5 to 8 p.m. This internet provider now is seeing it during the daytimes, 8 to noon and noon to 5, peak times that there are students at home, there are work from home individuals, and there's the telecommuting, telehealth that's going on. So yes, sir, we did that. We also did immediate action to all of our joint powers that we increased their speed to 1 gigabit. Most of us at no charge. Most of us, this was something that we had never needed this type of speed, but we have this speed available again, not necessarily for internet leaving from, let's say, Espanola municipal buildings, but the opposite direction. Now that more city employees are working from home, they need to be able to get into the municipal network. And this is what ReadyNet did immediately as a result of the pandemic declaration.
And you bring up a good point that, of course, more people are working from home using up the internet. Has there been any discussion with, specifically Lanel, because of the tremendous number of employees that are now working down off of the hill with their literal shirking of their internet responsibilities and sort of forcing that on down in the valley where maybe the internet speeds aren't as copious as they would have been up in Los Alamos?
Mr. Mayor, could you explain what do you mean by Lanel's responsibility?
Sure, and I suppose not necessarily responsibility, but basically as employees worked up at Lanel, they were in that network. I don't know what it is, whether it's ReadyNet or specifically Los Alamos, but now that they are asking people to work from home, and in fact, I think just this last week, many people have been told that their jobs would be permanently pushed to the home and they'll be telecommuting permanently. That is, forcing greater needs for internet bandwidth in Espanola, let's say specifically, and within the valley. So is there anything, has there ever been a discussion between, what that really means for everybody else?
Not really with Lanel. I mean, the discussion has been held internally with ReadyNet board members who, of course, many of us are technologists and we do understand the load capacity of a network and we understand how to mitigate that. So as Gerald said, we have met with our ISPs, not just since the COVID thing happened. We've been meeting with them regularly to try to understand how they're running their networks, how we can best serve them. As a matter of fact, we're trying to figure out ways that the unemployment situation, as well as potentially the loss of revenues from workers, have been impacted in terms of being able to provide bandwidth for their kids now that they have to be at home. So we're trying to work with either PED or Work First Solutions. Some of the tribes have programs. I know, Gerald, you outlined some of those. OK Owingeh outlined some of those. We're really trying to work with our JPAs to identify those people at need so that we can work with the ISPs that are currently on our network to bring those people into the fold, provide the bandwidth for them, and really show what a community broadband owned network is all about. And this is not something that, again, we're profit motivated only in that we need to keep the lights on. We have to extend the network. We have to work with our WISPs, of course, again, as we delineated with them this afternoon, making sure that they can be in business today, tomorrow, next year, and the next 5 years is absolutely, it's crucial to us. That we have GRT diversification as well as market force diversification. And those profits for those locally owned businesses stay here. They're not shipped off to some shareholder out in who knows where. They stay here. As we grow those businesses, of course, they offer more jobs for local people. Those are important to us. So as we move forward through this COVID response and understanding what impact that Lanel layoff or any other layoff that might have in the valley and how we can become a part of the solution, working with our WISPs, working with our internal people, working with our JPAs, and how to solve those solutions and identify those at-risk people, that's absolutely crucial to us. That's not something we take lightly. We represent all of our people, all of our constituency, and we work really hard to make that try to happen. I don't know if that answers your question. The simple answer is Lano has not reached out to us to try to look for any type of bandwidth deal, and we're not waiting for Lano. We're taking action now. We've been taking action since day one, and we will continue to take action.
Well, we certainly applaud the efforts for long-term infrastructure, the way that you're describing it. Certainly, we know that our kids are going to need it to be able to take the classes that they need. And I love the idea about using it for job creation in terms of the capacity and capability to have our own business-minded sort of interactions within the Valley. That does answer my question specifically regarding whether or not, I guess the question was, more along the lines of, how can we get maybe an improved response from Lano when they realize and recognize that their workers are going to be requiring the internet that is no longer provided by them. So, that you have taken up that extra step is tremendous and not only helpful, but vital and critical. So we appreciate that very much.
Well, sir, to be frank with you, Lano never did provide internet service. There's only 2 owners of infrastructure in the area. Windstream, who declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy, so they don't even own the infrastructure anymore, and ReadyNet. ReadyNet works for all of our JPA members. So we're not waiting for Lano, and we're not going to wait for Lano. We're taking the bull by the horns where we can, and we're going to make it happen.
Thank you so much for that clarification and for making sure that you're, like you said, taking those horns by the bull by the horns. There you go. There we go.
Right in the horse, sir. Right in the horse. Yes, sir.
Do we have any other council comments or questions? Can we go back to the other screen and see better? Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We really appreciate your presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to items proposed for council consideration. We have discussion items and action items. First, the approval of Child and Adult Care Food Program, CACFP, contract agreement between the City of Española's Beatriz Martinez Senior Center and the Family Learning Center, presented by Family Learning Center Director Kathy Berryhill.
Hello, thank you very much for having me, Mr. Honorable Mayor and members of the governing body. I'd like to really take this opportunity to thank Mr. Javier Martinez, Ms. Dora Terrazas, her staff, Mr. Frankie Rendon, and Tracy, I don't know her last name, but everyone at the Beatriz Martinez Senior Center has been really wonderful to the children of the Family Learning Center, who are really your children. And this is the 3rd year that we're asking you to approve a contract with Family Learning Center to provide food for the children, breakfast and lunch. And so this is just a continuation of the contract that we have had for the last 2 years. I'd just like to say that we've had a very successful contract. Everything has gone very well. We've had very, very rare and few glitches. Everything's always gone very well, and we really appreciate the city's efforts on our behalf, and the children appreciate it as well. We are in a different ocean now with COVID, but Ms. Terrazas and her staff have agreed to help to provide all the things that we need to maintain our health and safety protocol. And so we would ask you to approve this contract, and thank you very much for allowing us to use the resources of the city.
Move to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Manny Martinez and a second from Councillor John Ritchie. Do we have any items for discussion? I don't see any hands up, so we will go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Councillor Peggy Sue, if you could please unmute your computer. Do we still have Counselor Peggy Sue online?
I'll go to the next counselor.
Okay.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor John Ramon Vihil,
For the motion.
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Also in favor of the motion.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, Ms.
sir.
Berryhill.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We appreciate you. We'll now move on to Roman numeral 11, letter I, approval of co-sponsorship of Downtown Action Team of Espanola for the 25th Annual Electric Light Parade, December 12th, 2020. That'll be presented by Ms. Christine Bustos of the Downtown Action Team. Thank you very much. Perfect. A little higher. That's good.
Well, it's nice to see everybody in person, thank you. And anyway, so in these times, we're gonna have to switch up a little bit. We would still like to be able to have the electric light parade, a little different this year. It is our 25th year. So we've come up with a little bit different kind of format in where that we can put, as in the letter I submitted to you, I did meet previously with Dora as the acting, at that time, community service chair, and the chief of police and your streets director, Elijah Mares. And we talked over the plans and see if we could come up with something that would work. So what we came up with, and this was basically Elijah's idea, which I think is very good, is maybe to place the parade floats in different parts of the city. And then we'll have people drive by, because since we can't have crowds and the pandemic at this point doesn't have an end in sight, so we can't really plan on anything happening before then. But what we would do, for example, is put several floats along the roadway at the college, put several at the plaza, put some maybe at the Hunter Station grounds, some maybe at the park and ride, some in town, maybe in front of like where the transit mix is, they have that big field. So what we would do is put them along the highway, right? Not on the highway, but right off of the highway. And that way people will be given directions like a map, and they can go through town and see the parade, except they'll be the one doing the actual parading. And then, we can actually incorporate other things if possible, maybe some drive-by stands where people can drive up and get something to eat or something to drink. And just try and continue the Christmas celebrations without putting anybody in jeopardy. And the chief of police said that in his mind, it is also very doable. So what I'm asking for is the city's co-sponsorship to go ahead with this. We will not need the Department of Transportation's approval, because we won't be doing anything to the highways. And it's a simpler thing for this year. I don't know how many people will participate. I'm hoping that we'll still get a very good turnout, and we'll see what works, what we can work. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Manny Martinez and a second from Councillor John Ritchie for comment or discussion. Councillor Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Ms. Bustos. Thank you so much, especially for this great idea. And I think it's going to work out fantastic. It's going to be a little different for everybody, but everybody gets to cruise and keep warm in their vehicles as they get to see all these beautiful floats. It's just nice that in light of so many events that the city has had to postpone till next year. I'm not going to say cancel. I'm going to use the word postpone till next year. I'm so glad to see that the Christmas parade is still on, and that we all going to get to enjoy this as well. I would like to see, Mayor, if there is any monies with the lodger's tax, to see if there's anything that we would be able to contribute, especially because I'm sure they're gonna have to do more advertising, because they are gonna have to change this up. Like she said, making a map of where the different floats will be located, and of course, re-educating everybody's mind for this year so that they know that they're gonna have to go look for the floats. It's gonna be kind of like a scavenger hunt for Christmas, so that's gonna be kind of nice. So, but again, thank you so much, Ms. Bustos.
You're welcome, Counselor Martinez. And also, I don't see why we can't involve the rest of the city if people want to, as in Martinez Lane, decorate, and we can add that to our map if people want to have their neighborhoods. And, we could maybe do some other kinds of little prizes for people that decorate their homes or their neighborhoods. So, we want to get everybody involved, and we want to have all of New Mexico here, maybe. We'll see.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Councilor Denise Benavides, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I love this idea. I saw something similar many years back. We were in Oregon visiting friends, and they did something similar. And what they added to it was there were booths for people to stop at and get hot chocolate or purchase something. But they asked people who wanted to also bring canned goods to donate at each of the stations so that they could also gather food for the needy for that time of the year. So just
That's
an
another
idea.
great thought. Yes.
Thank you
We
so
can
much.
incorporate this. And as I had mentioned, we welcome any other people that want to join with us. I've talked to Gabriella at the Regional Arts Center, and, we're all very constrained on what we can do, but, anybody's welcome. We can see what we can do.
Thank you very much.
The
Councilor
mayor, the mayor, of course, will have a stand with burritos and
hot chocolate.
green chili stew or something.
Atole sounds good right now too. Councilor John Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, Teeny, thank you for, as Councilor Martinez said, we're keeping at least a tradition alive during this pandemic and giving us some hope, something to look forward to this holiday season. So thank you. And I'm sure the Sun will be would be creative in their advertising and put a package deal to sponsor the map in the paper for us so that they can print it out a few weeks in advance and keep it out there in their advertising to help sponsor the city map of
That would be
so
wonderful, right?
so there's an idea there, Son. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Seeing no other further hands, we have a motion and a second. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor John Ramon Vijil,
In favor of the motion, absolutely.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
Or the motion.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Absolutely in favor.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you out and about. Thank you.
So good to have you. Thank you so much for coming in. Now we'll move on to letter J of Roman numeral 11, approval of contractor for the State Road 76 sanitary sewer project. We have this presented by Grants Manager, Ms. Diane Hawkes.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. I'm here this evening requesting approval of Adame Construction for our State Road 76 project. They were our only bidder, so they were evidently our low bidder. They were, all their documentation, the references were all checked by our engineers, Wilson and Company, and they did submit the recommendation to approve them. So with that, I stand for questions and request your approval.
Motion for discussion, motion for approval of
Second.
That was a motion for approval from Councillor John Ritchie and a second from Councillor Denise Benavides for discussion. Councillor John Ritchie. Do we have any other questions or comments from councillors?
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you. How did the city request bids for this project?
Counselor Martinez, Honorable Mayor, the RFP for construction was advertised locally in the Rio Grande Sun and in the Albuquerque Journal. With it being advertised in the Albuquerque Journal, it was picked up by organizations like the Construction Reporter, the Dodge Reporter, and that's a resource for contractors to see what jobs are available to bid on.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkes.
Of course.
Do we have any further comments or discussions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Can we please take a roll call vote?
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
Absolutely in favor. I'm glad to see this is coming to light. Thank you.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
In favor.
John Ramon Vito,
Lisa, I can't hear you. Are you calling me yet?
yes, Counselor John Ramon Vito,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez.
In favor.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to letter K, consideration for approval amended Bureau of Reclamation lease for the San Juan Chama project, presented by Grants Manager Ms. Diane Hawkes.
And Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, I'm here this evening representing the contract with the Bureau of Reclamation to sublease our water rights with the San Juan Chama project. So since we last presented this contract, another 95 acre feet has become available for the city to sublease back to the Bureau of Reclamation. This sublease would in turn produce an additional $5,700 in revenue for the city. So we are just requesting approval of this newly amended contract.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez to approve the amended Bureau of Reclamation lease, and a second from Councilor John Ritchie. Do we have any questions or comments from councilors?
Under discussion, Mayor, can Ms. Hawkes just touch base for the public's sake on how this new acre feet of water got released?
Absolutely. Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. So what happened is the city has 1,000 acre feet and we approved a 700 acre feet contract to sublease back. So after Office of the State Engineers did an audit of what our offsets were, based on those results, that's where the additional acre footage surfaced.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkes.
You're very welcome.
Do we have any other comments or questions from any other councilors? Ms. Hawkes, I do have a quick question. Is the specific number of acre feet, is that what we see on page 3 of 10, where it says a maximum of up to 795 acre feet?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that that was in there somewhere. Thank you. Seeing no further questions, we have a motion and a second. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor.
Counselor John Ramon Vito,
Melissa, are you calling me? I can't hear you at all. I heard Didi vote, but I'm assuming I'm voting. I'm in favor of the motion.
yes, thank you, Counselor.
Can you like get closer to the mic or something? I can't hear at all, Melissa.
Is this better?
Much.
Yeah, much better.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Also in favor.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a bar resolution 2020-24, a City of Espanola budget adjustment resolution approving an increase to fiscal year 2021 revenues and expenditures budget by $20,000 for New Mexico State Police Prisoner Transport Services, presented by Administrative Services Director Jessica Ortiz. Or do we
Good
have
evening,
Ms.
Mayor,
Diane
members of the
Hawkins?
governing body. I'm here presenting on Jessica's behalf this evening, respectfully requesting approval of budget adjustment 2020-24 to get budget authority for the $20,000 revenues and expenditures for the New Mexico State Police contract.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar to approve the bar resolution 2020-24. Any topics of discussion or questions?
Under discussion, sir.
Yes, Ms. Peggy
Thank you,
Sue.
Mayor. Thank you. Diane, when you say revenues and expenditures, you're saying revenue and expenditure because it's actually a revenue that's going to come to the city, but expenditure because it's going to be put into the budget. Is that the reason we do both?
Yes, ma'am. In order to have a balanced budget, you have to have a revenue and expenditure to offset one another.
Right, that's what I thought. So I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion by Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
In favor of the motion, and I can hear you now, Melissa. Thank you.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Didi Valdez.
In favor.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Our agenda has us now on letter M, approval of the memorandum of understanding between the Espanola Police Department and the Espanola Public Schools for a school resource officer program for the 2020-21 school year, presented by Police Chief Mr. Roger Jimenez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, honorable members of the governing body. Before you, you see the MOU for the Espanola Public Schools between the Espanola Police Department. And this is going to be for the School Resource Officer Program for the year of 2020 and 2021. I stand for any questions.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez and a second from Councilor John Ritchie. Do you have a question or comment, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez?
No, I just had a concern at public safety that I expressed to our chief, asking him that we definitely make sure to have the training to deal with any special needs situation of any kid that is in a 504 situation established by the school, making sure that we understand that these children have a different way of dealing with things and we need to address it in a way that is safe for everyone. So just making sure about that. Other than that, I think it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Do we have any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion from Councilor Peggy. Yes, is that Councilor?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Could the chief just touch base a little bit? Because he did reassure me at the level of committee, but I think it's important that he touch base on that for the public, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. So what I did reassure Councilor Martinez at Public Safety was that the schools will be conducting numerous training to include the 504 training and other retraining. It's actually training on how to restrain the children to prevent injury and to prevent any issues or concerns or harm to the child. So that training will be set forth. Hopefully, we can start working that in September. Our planned school year looks like it's going to be September 14th. Obviously, that can change if the pandemic continues, but that training will be given to not only the 2 school resource officers that are assigned, but 3 or 4 others that will attend the training in case we have a need for a backup officer to sit in or to in case that school resource officer calls in sick or takes leave. We'll have them also trained on that. On the 504 and all the other training that they require.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Seeing no other further questions, it looks like we have a motion on the floor and a second. Can we take a roll call vote for the approval of the memorandum of understanding?
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Councilor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Councilor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Councilor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor of the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
In favor.
Councilor John Ramon Vigil,
In favor of the motion.
Councilor Didi Valdez.
In favor.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We've now reached our public hearing, which is the City of Espanola, New Mexico Resolution Number 2019-01, the Clean and Lean Update, presented by Planning and Land Use Director, Mr. Richard Hubler. I think that I will listen to the update first and then go into the hearing. So, Mr. Hubler, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the governing body. Are you able to hear me okay?
It's okay, but if there's a way to improve it, that would be nice.
And while I'm working on that, Melissa, can we pull up the presentation, please?
It just sounds a little muffled, but if there's nothing you can do about that, no problem.
I will try and speak up. All right, next screen, please. So as you can see, there are currently 17 properties that remain on our clean and lean list. 4 properties from phase 1 have completed the process of demolition or cleanup. Of the 4 properties that were on phase 2 that we last discussed in June, 3 sites are either complete or nearing completion. The 1008 Cuyahoga Hill and 803 South Riverside are done. 2004 North McCurdy is just about done, and 1 still needs additional funding. We do have 9 properties remaining. So if we'll go to the next slide. This one at 1008 Cuyahoga Hill was nearing completion when we last spoke in June. It is now complete, and you can see that nice clean vacant lot. Next slide. The one at 803 South Riverside. This one was not a demolition, but a cleanup and securing of the property. There was a large hole in the back of the building that you can see has been boarded up. The doors at the front have all been secured from entry, and the property has been scraped both in the front and the back. So that one is complete. Next slide. On 2004 North McCurdy Road, this one had the removal of and demolition of 2 trailers and the cleanup of trash. Working extensively with the family members, we were able to successfully relocate both of those trailers off the property without having to demolish them. And so now we're working through trash removal. This week is the final week that they have to, finish picking out anything that they want to keep from these piles in the back and put the rest into a dumpster that we've provided. Next week, the city contractor will go in and complete the job. So that one should be done very soon. And as I indicated, was the best solution we could have hoped for in that situation. Both the trailers, as I said, have been relocated, and we're in process of helping them get set up at their new location. And then, as I indicated too, we'll save a little bit of money on that from not having to pay the contractor for their demolition. The next slide is the one final remaining property from the second round RFP that was awarded in June. This one, we approved the demolition, awarded in February rather, approved the demolition contract. The asbestos abatement on this site is extensive. We did get 3 different estimates. They range from the low end of $43,000 to the high end of $73,000. That is just to abate the asbestos. There's a large amount of spray texture on ceilings and drywall inside the structure. And then the contract that we awarded earlier this year for about $41,000 for demolition puts the total project cost on this over the current budgeted amount. As we've gone through the budget for this year, we're hoping to get additional allocations, which unfortunately wasn't possible. It's my understanding, in speaking with the finance department and the procurement folks, that contract is still valid and good, generally speaking, for at least a year, should we be able to come back and reevaluate our budget partway through the year. So go on to the next slide. Of the 9 properties that are currently remaining, there's 2 that we feel could benefit from some immediate action. That's the one that we discussed in June on 901 Calle Quintana. That one had the structure fire for one of the 3 structures. That one needs to complete the demolition and the scraping of the lot. And then there's another one that we discussed in June at 804 State Road 76. So if we can go to the next slide, I've got photos of both of those. So this one, the structure that caught fire is separate from the structure that's in the top left of the image. That's the house that still remains. That's the one that would need to be demolished, along with the cinder block garage you can just sort of see in the left side of the bottom photo. That one is really unstable. The structure that caught fire, of course, is a pile of debris at this point. And we feel we owe it to the city and the neighborhood to take a more immediate action on this site. Next slide. This is the property at 804 State Road 76. This one went through Santa Fe County's tax auction last summer, and we were hopeful that the new property owners would be more engaged. They did begin the process. It is entirely stalled out. It has gotten even worse than the condition it was in June, and we're not having any luck getting them to continue moving forward. So this one we're also recommending kind of next action on. And then we'll just highlight a couple of the other, next slide, a couple of the other remaining properties. So next slide. The ones we're currently monitoring include 601 Old Hospital Road. No substantial change on that. It is on the list with Rio Arriba County for a tax sale. That one has been postponed until at least January and possibly farther. It was originally scheduled for April of this year and postponed because of the coronavirus. Next slide. 1000 A and B Calle Lopez. We understand that the property owner of record is recently deceased. We've had a couple folks that have contacted our office interested in redeveloping this property. So it's one that we're currently monitoring. It is one that we feel could easily be, taken off this list if a new buyer were to, take responsibility and take action on it. So at this point, we're currently monitoring it and no substantial changes since our last update. Next slide. This one is in a similar situation, 906 East Pueblo. It's currently owned by the bank, in this case, the USDA. We've been monitoring the property. They do have a maintenance company. You can see here it was recently mowed. We've not seen substantial change in this property since June, and we're hopeful that as they work through their process for clearing this off their inventory, that a new owner will take the necessary steps to occupy the structure, and then we'll be able to remove it. So at this point in time, we're currently monitoring. Next slide. Again, no substantial change on this one, 101 North Riverside. It was slated for potential demolition. We're currently monitoring. The circumstances don't have any immediate need to demolish it. It's not posing imminent risk at this point in time to the community. Next slide. This one is in a similar situation, 117 South Coronado. It's just south of the former Cariños and the current Rio Arriba Empowerment Center. This one has been condemned by the city. It's not livable at this point. There's a variety of both structural and mechanical improvements that we're aware of that would need to be made before this was to become livable. Similar to some of the other properties, we have fielded some interest about redevelopment of this site, and I feel that this is one that a new owner could potentially, again, take responsibility for, get the necessary building permits, submit a development plan, and move towards getting this one back in effective use, and we'd be able to take it off the list at that point in time. So at this point, we are just currently monitoring this. It has been secured. There's no substantial change from the last update. Next slide. This one is similar, 2119 A and B North Riverside. We do have several violations in our office related to predominantly the abandoned signage, but some other nuisance and weed violations. We're currently monitoring it. We're not proposing any action at this time, and those court cases continue to move forward. And then final slide. And this one, of course, is 312 Carr Lane. It's one that we've been monitoring. A new owner does own the property. It finally cleared from the federal ownership, and of course the fire earlier this year. Nothing has happened with it yet, so we have not yet suggested it be removed. But as soon as the new owner to develop it, then we'll be able to remove that off the list. So at this point in time, I'm not recommending that we take any off the list. If you can go back up, Melissa, to the slide number 7. My request to this governing body, or my suggestion, I should say, right there, to this governing body would be that because of the large expense necessary to fully handle the apartments on East Chamisa, that we instead put that one on hold, and that we move forward with soliciting the bids. It's my understanding that the demolition component of both of these structures is low enough that we can perhaps just get competing bids and not have to go through the full RFP process. So I've started that process to try and get some competing bids on these, and we bring that, of course, to the governing body for approval. And then we basically use the money that we do have to deal with both of these structures. And then as we close out the other accounts on both 2004 North McCurdy and the 803 South Riverside that are recently completed or in the process of completing, then we'll be able to do a more full accounting and see what we've got left to deal with the apartments on East Chamisa, and hopefully allocate some additional funding partway through the year at our next update, perhaps, or later to deal with that. So that's the summation of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
I have some questions, Mayor.
I'm sorry, was that Councilor John Ramon Vigil?
Yes.
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
Okay, Richard, we're talking about the Chamisa Street property. I understand it's been a safety issue, the asbestos and particles and debris fall from the property. Have we at least gone in there to seal, or I know not completely encapsulate it, but I know it's an issue for the neighborhood and it blows debris all over. Is there at least some funding to do that?
That's an excellent question. Thank you, Councilor Vigil. So the process so far has not included any of those kinds of actions. If that's the direction of the governing body, we could certainly pursue something along that line. The challenge with a lot of these properties, and that one in particular, is that while it is absolutely a safety hazard and an issue for the neighborhood, it is still frequently utilized by those folks that are unhoused for temporary shelter. So, the kind of abatement process, like we saw previously in photos off of Coyote Hill, where they did the full encapsulation with plastic and all to fully contain the dust and debris, is very effective, but it's also a little bit fragile compared to those folks that are looking to gain entry. So it has to be done in a rather rapid kind of succession to kind of get in there, get the asbestos and other materials out, and then take it down. My personal feeling is that if we were to do anything to that particular structure, it would probably be a very short-term fix.
Follow up, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Richard, also, I wanted to bring, I'm really happy that 1008 Coyote Hills cleaned up, but it goes back to an issue at 1015 West Bond Street, where it seems to be where the property owner, well, a family member has set up camp there. They're living out of a pop-up camper. They're setting up a bonfire, and it's starting to become an issue. Now, I guess they're starting to, not the same people, but bring congregation to that 1008 Coyote Hill property. And it seems to be an issue for the neighborhood where they just have large bonfires. What's our plan of action and mitigation for this?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Vigil. That is a very challenging situation, and it is in fact one of the reasons that property remains on our list, is because it gives us a little bit additional potential for dealing with situations like this. As you guys will all recall, last fall, individuals camping on that property were lighting fires, and the fire department had to respond multiple times. For whatever reason, it cleared up for a little while, but we have become aware, and I noticed myself last week or the week prior when I was up in that area, that new, it's almost like a camper out of the back of a pickup truck. There's just no truck, it's just sitting on the ground. So it's very challenging. Those individuals are trespassing in the sense that property is still currently under the condemnation order. We have, my understanding is we have interacted, the city, I should say, has interacted with those individuals, and sometimes they leave and then immediately they come back. The best long-term solution to any of these sites, unfortunately, is kind of redevelopment and utilization. Most of the ones that we're dealing with at this point are now to that point where the individuals that have legal opportunities to do so don't have the capacity to do so. They're simply, like you indicated, camping out there, letting their friends camp out there, hanging out until somebody chases them off. And from our office's perspective, we're a bit limited because it's a scraped bare lot at this point. I mean, we can't do a lot more other than just try and continue to work with the other authorities to deal with those folks that are trespassing.
One last follow-up, Mayor.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Richard. I understand funds are limited. I see a larger problem looming on the horizon for this, because I seem to see a lot more homeless people going up my street now than was in the past when those homes were there. So I think it's created like a camp. So if we could work with the Pathway Shelter to maybe mitigate and get some of these folks into an actual transitional facility and get them off that property, because it's just growing every day. I see more and more transients come up my street as these properties were demolished in the last summer. So thank you, Richard.
Yes, sir.
Just a friendly reminder to use the Mr. Hubler or last name of anybody that we're speaking with. Any other questions or comments? And actually, I had one, Mr. Hubler, and that was if your suggestion is to move money from one property to two, would we need a motion at the end of the hearing in order to make that happen?
Mr. Mayor, members of the governing body, not necessarily. The money has not been allocated. The RFP that went out was awarded to the winning bidder. And so that contract has a recipient, or I should say, should the city decide to move forward with issuing that contract, we have the contractor who would win that contract. Since we did not have the funds to do so, we've not done that yet. So the funds in this point are just general funds for this project, and we could allocate them however. So if the governing body, if it's your privilege, it's your preference to direct our department, we can move forward on, bringing forth to you guys expense of those funds to deal with the 901 Calle Quintana and 801 or 804 State Road 76. That would be my preference, but the motion's not actually required, my understanding, until we bring those forth to you with the contracts in place.
Okay, very good. So we can just simply ask for that direction and ask for us to move in that direction without necessitating a motion. Okay, very good. Do we have any other comments or questions from any other counselors? Seeing none, we'll now move into the public hearing part, and I will read all of the necessary and requisite language. The City of Espanola, New Mexico, Resolution Number 2019-01, a resolution requiring the prompt removal of ruined, damaged, and dilapidated structures, materials, debris, and abandoned vehicles to abate a menace to the public comfort, health, safety, and welfare at the following locations: 506 East Chamisa Street, apartments 1 through 4, 803 South Riverside Drive, 312 Carr Lane, 750 North Monterey Lane, 1015 West Bond Street, 1008 Cayebe Hill, 901 Calle Quintana, 601 Old Hospital Road, 906 East Pueblo Street, 718 and 800 A Fairview Lane, 117 South Coronado Avenue, apartments 1 through 6, 101 North Riverside Drive, 804 A and B State Road 76, 2227 A and B North McCurdy Road, 1003 A and B Calle Lopez, 2119 A and B North Riverside Drive, 2004 North McCurdy Road, Espanola, New Mexico, 87532, in the City of Espanola, Santa Fe, and or Rio Arriba counties, New Mexico, the properties, requiring the owner or owners of the properties to promptly commence and complete the removal from the properties of all ruined, damaged, and dilapidated structures, materials, debris, and abandoned vehicles, including but not limited to structures, abandoned motor vehicles, manufactured or mobile residential commercial structures, travel trailers, weeds, dead tree limbs, rubbish, and other debris, provided that an owner, occupant, or agent in charge of any individual property may file written objections to this resolution, seeking a hearing before the governing body of the City of Espanola, authorizing the administration of the City of Espanola to cause removal of the ruined, damaged, and dilapidated structures, materials, debris, and abandoned vehicles if owners of an individual property do not timely undertake such removal, and providing that the governing body of the City of Espanola, the City Council, authorizes the city administrator to take actions it deems necessary or convenient to lien the individual properties, pursue foreclosure of the property by any available legal remedy so as to recover its costs and expenses incurred in cleaning the property. I will now open the meeting. It is 20:34. This hearing is now open. Do we have any members from the public who would like to speak in favor of the resolution? Madam City Clerk, did we have anybody signing up for or requesting to speak at this time?
Honorable Mayor, no, that is not correct.
Do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak? I know that the technology sometimes is harder to follow, so I'll leave a little bit of extra time. Does anybody wish to speak against the resolution? Again, we are open to discussion either for or against. Do we have anyone for or against? Okay, seeing none, The time is now 8:36. This hearing is now closed. I would like to offer a date for the continuation of these hearings and like to set that with a motion for November the 10th, if that is acceptable to the governing body.
So move, Mayor.
We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Manny Martinez and a second from Councillor John Ritchie. Do we need a motion to affirm this resolution as well? No. All right, very good. So with direction to the planning and land use director, Mr. Hubler, on behalf of the council and the mayor, I think we would like you to pursue what cost measures it would take in order to remediate the two properties that you were speaking about and have more information for us at the next meeting. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Under discussion, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. My apologies. Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to state that, you know, the clean and lean process has been strenuous at times. It's been stressful for the staff for sure, and stressful for the governing body for sure, and stressful for the people that are dealing with receiving these kinds of letters from the city. But all in all, I can say that I really believe that the process is working. There's been numerous properties that have been pulled off the clean and lean, and there's been others that have been dealt with in different ways. And for my purposes, I can say that it is working. I do agree with Councilor Vigil concerning the issue up here on Caivijil. You know, we removed the building and now you have people defecating outdoors. So it's definitely an issue. It's a health concern. It's horrible for the neighborhood, for the environment when people are living like that. And it's something that we need to think about. How do we handle that when we get to this situation? So I would hope that we would start to come up with some ideas for this situation so that we can help that neighborhood out. And all in all, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Hubler and the staff at Planning and Zoning. Sometimes they're the most unpopular department in the community, and their work shows, and we just appreciate everything they're doing. So thank you.
Under discussion, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor John Ramon Vigil.
Full disclosure, I represented a client who made an offer on 906 East Pueblo. That didn't go through. It's a bank-owned property, but I just wanted to publicly disclose that.
Well, it's good to know that there's activity, and I think that would be the added benefit of, or in fact, the benefit of the process that we're taking, so that
it sold for $74,000.
Wow. So that's good to hear that people are taking these properties and hopefully using them for something great, and that is really awesome news. So thank you very much. I now will go to a roll call vote, please.
Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
We're just voting correct. I just want to make sure that we state what we're voting on, that we are going to move the meeting to the date. Give me the date, Melissa.
November 10th.
I'm sorry, Melissa, Ms. Velasquez. Sure, in favor of the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor John L. Ritchie.
In favor.
Councillor Manuel J. Martinez.
Somebody wake him up in his car.
Councillor Denise D. Benavides.
In favor.
I'll go back to Councillor Manuel. Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
For the motion.
Councillor John Ramon Vigil.
For the motion.
Councillor Didi Valdez.
In favor of the motion.
Councillor Manuel J. Martinez.
Somebody better check on him.
He's still alive.
Councillor Martinez, are you there?
One Counselor Martinez is here.
The counselor in his vehicle. Are you there? He's not. Well, where are we? with that?
Somebody honk the horn.
Motion carries 6-0.
The motion carries 6-0, so the motion passes. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our agenda. We are now set for adjournment. It is 8:41. I hereby call this meeting closed. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yay.
Thank you, Mayor.
There he is.
He came through.